Welcome to Speakeasily versus the 80s. We're the trash cast responsible for resurrecting all your favorite 1980s schlock classics, and not so classics. Reanimating them with the power to live and rot again in your imagination. Join us as we descend into the nostalgic crypt of bad taste in search of buried treasure. I'm Odessa Lil, beaming into your brains from an undisclosed location in the Central Galaxy. With me, as always, are my comedy life partners, the Bert to my Ernie, the 245 trioxin to my desiccated corpse, and the incredibly strange creatures who stopped living and became mixed up zombies, Klingon Vanna White and Shecky Davis Jr.
Greetings and salutations.
Brains.
How are your brains today, you two?
Scrambled.
I have a splitting COVID-19 headache.
Oh,
There you go.
God. Can we talk about this? That you have COVID?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now the world knows that Klingon Vanna White caught COVID.
Even with a vaccine, because of all you unvaccinated dirty fuckers out there.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
They are the Walking Dead.
It's so true. Do it. What's the big fucking deal? All the shit you put in your body, get the vaccine.
I know. I mean, if you will drink Coca-Cola.
For whatever reason, they're scared they're gonna be trapped or made infertile.
Yeah, it's the
Oh,
Jewish
yeah.
space lasers that go in with the vaccine.
Yes.
Because like what high fructose corn syrup won't make you infertile.
Or your computer or your phone.
But it's the nanobots.
The Bananabots?
No, the nanobots. The Bananabots.
Bananabots.
Bananabots coming
Those
for you.
fuckers. Those Bananabots are coming for your butts.
You know who else is coming for your butt, Shecky? Our guest today. Our guest today is a writer, nurse, and former taxi driver who publishes Specious Species, an interview-fueled magazine featuring conversations with iconoclastic artists, maverick journalists, and subcultural thinkers. This is a real magazine.
Yeah, this guy sounds too cool for us.
I know. I mean, one of these days I'm going to learn how to read, and then I'm totally going to read his magazine. But this magazine is real, like on paper print. It's a print because...
Whoa.
Yeah.
Old school.
Yes. This is old school zine
You can touch it, feel it.
knowledge. He says it's in print because if you don't use up all the wood, termites breed.
Makes
Yeah,
sense.
termites.
Yeah, he's a termite eradicator or a writer. Either way, yeah.
I hear you can eat them.
Yeah, you can eat him. And here he is, Joe Donohoe!
Yay!
Hello, how are you?
Welcome to our little corner of the internet.
Oh yeah, it's a big place. It's nice to have a campfire.
Yeah.
Roast them brains.
Is that what that smell is? Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. And it's a real honor. You have a wonderful magazine. Would you say it's a magazine, a literary journal, a zine? How do you like to refer to it?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it was a zine, and then now it's a book. It's got a spine, and it's offset printed, and I've got great artists to illustrate the covers, and so I guess it's a book, but in which case it's kind of like an anthology of cultural journalism, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, that's a good description for it. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful book. The covers are always really eye-catching.
Yeah, I mean, it's gone over the world. I think I have like 15 readers or something. So
More than us.
Yeah.
We have tens of dozens of listeners.
It's true. And now they're going to read your magazine. So how long have you been doing Specious Species?
it started as a website in 2003. And, I've done a lot of I'd like to be a real journalist, and I have done real journalism. But, there's not really a gig for somebody like me.
What's that mean? Somebody like you?
Well, there was once a point in publishing history where you had these great characters who would be columnists in these urban newspapers. Not saying I'm on their level or anything, but you used to see guys who were total characters who would have a column. Mike Royko from the Chicago Sun-Times, or Jimmy Breslin from the New York Post, Herb Caen from the Chronicle. These guys
Right.
who lived in these cities, and they had, and you read Mike Royko. Mike Royko wrote real journalism, but his column, he made a lot of points, but he could also tell he was just making everything up. Like he would always write about his friend Slaps Globnik. Was always getting into these crazy, and this is like a really respected newspaper columnist, who actually got death threats from Merritt Daly and stuff. And he ended, before he died, he was revered. Everybody loved Mike Royko. But so I would like to have been like a zany newspaper columnist who actually wrote serious stuff too, like like Royko, or going all the way back to Mencken and Mark Twain.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that I have an avenue in for that right now. And I look at any newspapers around, and they're like placemats. They're placemats with like kind of 8th grade English, kind of not really, no character.
Yeah, a lot of AP articles.
Yeah, and no filter where you have like any kind of character, and personality, whatever you want to call it. But this is kind of amusing, and I mean, to me, great writing is something that will actually make me laugh, because there's not a lot of stuff that I find a lot of stuff funny, but my humor is very dry. And there's a few writers that I've read that will actually make me read out loud. To me, that's really great writing.
Still quote Herb Cain.
Yeah, I mean, Oscar Wilde makes me read out loud, laugh out loud.
Yeah.
The Importance of Being Earnest is a very funny play. And 100 years later, I mean, somebody who can actually make humor last for 100 years, I mean, genius.
Well, you had a column when you were a taxi driver.
No, that's another guy.
I thought you had the column.
I did not have that column.
I am so sorry. I weird. Okay.
Yeah, she told me it was this Taxi Cab Confessions, and you were that guy.
I didn't.
If I wrote, real cab stories, I mean, driving the cab was insane. And I was I drove cab for 16 years, and at night, Luxor, and anything you can think of, man. I had a machine gun pointed at me one time.
What?
I had an ice pick put up to my eye one time.
What city was this?
San Francisco.
Oh, wow.
A machine gun?
Yeah, it was. I was taking this puppy couple, puppy at the time, punk urban professional. They were people who looked like they'd been punk rockers and got tech jobs. It's a couple. And I picked them up from Crushed Groove, which is this sushi and wine place down on Ellis and North Cyril Magna. I'm driving them back to the Mission, and we come to the longest stoplight of my life at the intersection of Jones and Ellis. And this guy comes running around the cab and crouches behind my cab. And then this woman starts screaming in this doorway of this liquor store. And this guy pulls something out of his waistband. This other dude runs up, a young Asian guy, looked like he's about 22 or something. He runs up, and he's got a beanie. He reaches into his pants and pulls something out that looks like a mag light. That's the way my brain saw it. Then I see it's actually a modified Saturday Night Special, like a handgun that had been equipped to take a clip in it.
Whoa.
Oh, Lord.
And he points it sideways, just like in the freaking movies, where the guy turns the gun sideways, like the Glock, and
That's where he learned it. Yep.
But this guy's face, he was stone cold. He no passion in his face. He's like, I got to take care of business. And there's this guy crouching behind my cab, who this guy wants to put in the ground.
Ooh.
And he's just pointing, and we're in the middle, me and my two passengers. And he's waving it left and right. And then you can tell this guy was a pro. Well, the gun was like a handgun, but it had been modified to take a clip. So that's why I call it a machine gun, because it was a machine gun. It looked like he did it in his apartment or something. And I asked my passengers, we were frozen. I'm like, is that a gun? And they're like, yeah. But he decided not to cap us because, killing tourists and taxi drivers is really bad business, and you're in the game.
Bad press. Yeah.
Yeah, then you have all the cops all over the place. Not good. So he just kind of took off, and I called like 911, and you call 911 from a cell phone, a taxi, it gets routed to highway patrol.
Yeah.
and I'm just like, well, yeah, it's a Tenderloin. This guy's running around with like a modified Saturday Night Special, and it looks like he wants to cap somebody. I just thought maybe you might want to investigate. And they're like, oh, okay, thank you. That was like, yeah, that was just like one the more extreme incidences. I mean, I could tell you stories. I can tell you stories from public health too, which are just crazy, man. It's like, a guy's defecating in traffic. I call 911 to get him, and the cops show up. Oh, we can't do anything. I mean, this guy's going to dump in the middle of the road, and cars are zipping around him. And like, well, people do that all over the city. I'm like,
Yeah, and then there's like the poop map for San Francisco.
yeah.
Well, this brings up kind of an interesting point of like, when we're younger, living in the gritty city is more interesting and you could just kind of go with it. But Joe, you've been working as a nurse with disenfranchised folks for years, and I can't even imagine what this city looks like to you from your
Thank you
perspective.
for doing fucking God's work. Thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome. I don't know. I as long as they're not violent, I tend to get along with the mentally ill. I guess it's relatable because I'm not exactly totally what you would call psychonormative. Not as functional as I'd like to be. I think I'm fairly functional, but I'm not as functional as I'd like to be. But
Who is?
yeah. It's you get sick and you hear about these people build their own houses and invent their own language and have 10 romantic partners with no issues, and I don't know.
Only hobbits.
I just kind of see the world as crazy. It's like, because I actually I worked in the lock unit at SF General, and I kind of know how to manage mental illness and its presentations because I know what they are. Not everything there is to know about them, but I look at world political behavior and these conflicts that never end, and massacres, and I'm just kind of like, yeah, maybe psychonormative is psychotic. What I mean?
Yeah.
Cities are just concentrated places. I mean, you could be in like some real small farm town or, in the country or something, and it's not as obvious. It's not as always in your face. But, I go to these small towns and they got big homeless camps. Like, Sacramento's got a homeless city that goes all the way from Folsom Dam to the train station. Along the American River. You got a huge homeless population in Monterey County. You got a huge homeless population in Fresno. LA's got a huge homeless, and
it's unbelievable in LA.
Yeah, and it's kind of like what used to be intense and fun. Oh, it's so edgy. It's like you reach a certain age and you realize, well, everywhere is kind of edgy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just like, for a country as rich as we are, I just that kind of street misery and casual just cruelty of the American people, it's just disheartening.
It is. There's a lot of myths people have, about homeless people and about mentally ill people. People don't know the real presentation with the real life, and they don't think about certain situations like how people they lose their shoes because they wear their shoes out because they're walking so much. A lot of homeless people, they walk like 10 to 15 miles a day. And what else are you going to do? You don't have anywhere you can go except for maybe the library or maybe get in one of the shelters or something. And you're always being hassled and told to move on. And, an expensive, property is so expensive. It's not like you can work as a fry cook and even rent an apartment.
The world has been sort of rigged against us in that way, where not everyone can work and afford to live. And that seems very unfair, but then those of us who can ignore it.
Well, it's a war against the poor. But when it comes down to it, we pay taxes to help take care of these public health issues.
So what do we do, Joe?
Well, I don't know. I just do what I do every day. And part of it, I mean, Aldous Huxley was the one that asked, well, what can you do to improve the world? And he was like, Aldous Huxley was not a dummy. He just kind of pulls his eyes, shrugs, and he's like, I don't know, just try to be nicer to people.
I agree.
I mean, there's something to be said about being nice. I try it all the time.
It's too bad you fail.
Yeah, I'm like, can I please have some brains? Thank you.
Talking about all this does kind of bring us to the movie you chose. Rising from the ashes of George A. Romero's watershed 1968 zombie classic Night of the Living Dead, Dan O'Bannon's Return of the Living Dead is the best thing to happen to the living world of 1985. Well, besides Reanimator. Responsible for gifting us with the tropes of zombies hungry for brains, Return of the Living Dead also produced a goth punk soundtrack that is all killer, no filler, and features Linnea Quigley dancing fully nude on a grave for no reason at all, other than it's totally fucking cool. Yes, Joe, why? Why Return of the Living Dead?
You asked me, hey, do you want to talk about some, I don't know, 80s trash culture? And I was like, okay, yeah, sure. And so I started racking my brains for 80s stuff, and the stuff that I really like from the 80s, I don't consider trashy. Like, I think Repo Man's a great work of art.
It is.
Yeah, and I'm just kind of, oh, we could do that now, but it's not dumb enough or something, So I would go through my brain banks. I'm like, okay, what would be a good 80s property, And I thought, oh, Return of the Living Dead. I mean, she must have done that. That's kind of almost looked at in the same category as something like Fright Night, which is great
Yeah.
trash. I mean,
Fantastic.
yeah, I mean, it's great trash, and I love Fright Night, but this Return of the Living Dead has the punk edge to it.
One of the best
And,
movies we've ever done.
Okay, so every time Klingon says that, you get 10 points. You're playing along with Speakeasily Bingo.
Yeah, so I thought, yeah, I'll have to watch that movie again. So I watched it again. It took me a while to find it online, but they actually had it on Amazon. So I helped Bezos go into space by watching the movie again.
Oh, good for you. Yeah, send Whitey to the moon.
Just went up to the Von Karman boundary. He didn't go to the moon.
No, I know.
Not yet.
Yeah, so I remember enjoying that movie when I saw it on video when I was 16 years old, and I thought it'd be a good movie to see. I don't think there had been a lot of zombie stuff for a while. I think it was all about vampires, and there were no zombies running around. Now it's all about zombies.
Yeah.
But this is way before Walking Dead and all the whole zombie craze. And
but
it was
so much of that lore comes from conventions introduced in this movie.
Well, what's interesting is like there's certain things that they always have in the zombie movies. Like, the zombies are always mindless, and they're always this kind of like existential threat, and the rules. You shoot them in the head, you can kill them, but nothing else will kill them. And they bite you, you turn into a zombie. But this movie gets rid of all that. The zombies are near indestructible.
Yep.
You can't destroy the zombies. Every time you try, and so they're more deadly than any other zombies.
And they run after you, and
they're fast and they're smart.
Man.
This is the only zombie movie I've seen where the zombies are actually smart. They can talk and they can strategize.
Yeah, Dan O'Bannon gave them brains in more than one way.
They tell you what their trip is. Like, they capture one of the female zombies, who's totally just her lower half is rotted off. And she's like, why are you doing this? I'm like, because it hurts to be dead. And only by eating brains do we not hurt. And, and you know what the zombies are about. They want to eat some brains. They're consumers, but they're strategic consumers. There's this one scene where you see all the cops coming to investigate what they don't, riot or whatever at the funeral home, and zombies dress up like cops, and they have like flashlights, and they direct the cops in a row. And then as soon as the cops stop, they, so they're really strategic and smart. In contrast, all the human beings are completely ineffectual, including the U.S. Army. They do everything wrong.
Let's burn them. Okay. Let's open this military grade thing. Okay. Yeah.
There's no Ripleys in the movie.
No, not at all.
There's no final girl.
It's just they're literally just like making time until they're dead. It's like, geez.
Yeah, they keep on hoping there's going to be hope. I mean, and that's another thing about this movie. It's got some of the best cynicism of the 80s. Because, like, I think people look back at the 80s and, like, they have this, I don't know. I mean, I didn't like the 80s. I liked some aspects of the 80s. I liked the fact that the polyester was out of the picture and businessmen were wearing natural fiber suits. And I thought the movie production values or the TV production values certainly got really great. They started doing cinema, but Reagan was the president, and they were kind of shoving everybody back into this sort of 1950s trip, like the 60s and the 70s hadn't happened, but you saw this in punk culture and in rap, and a movie like this, a real cynicism. That's your best defense, because now, I mean, you never see any Hollywood movies that put down the military, the U.S. military. And this movie shits on
Oh,
the
yeah.
military. It's like, I like that. It's a lot of fun. I mean, it's just totally like it is a funny movie.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting it to be as funny as it was, and the representation of all the people that were there, I thought was really cool because there's like a ton of people that are like all together. Like you have like uh, the super crazy guy who's the leader, then you have the black guy who's the punk, and you're kind of like, okay,
Spider.
yeah, like
Spider.
I was not expecting him when I first saw the movie. Like I was totally like, yeah, okay, like I can relate to this guy. Like he likes the same music that I like, and he's with these crazy like white people, and even he was kind of like, y'all crazy, So he was still had that kind of feeling, and then there was the old guy who knew everything but nothing at all. It's just like every trope was there, but every trope was kind of funny, That movie ticked so many boxes for like representation and like just craziness. I love that movie just because of how forward it was at the time, and I loved how colorful it was. Do you know that? Like, I would just look at the movie and just realize how colorful it was, and then the soundtrack was just like the ambient music, like the whole thing was just this kind of like
Yeah.
weird fever dream of just like, oh shit, what's gonna happen next? Oh shit, oh my god, what? She did what? He did what? It's just this unbelievable scene after unbelievable scene, and you don't see movies like that where you have like such a bleak ending, like you don't have like, I don't know. I thought the movie was just like it was a fever dream for my adolescent mind. I was just like, wow, like I'm seeing like shit that I actually like being portrayed in a movie, and it just like, I don't know. I was really taken back by it. We watched the movie a lot.
Mm.
Yeah, and the gang, they're not all punk rockers. Like four of them are like punk rockers, but then
Yeah.
one guy's kind of a new wave guy.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the girl's kind of a preppy.
Preppy.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
they're just kind of like, and they're hanging out with Suicide because he's got a car.
Of
Yeah,
course.
and it's like they're all like just hanging out. Like they're all just hanging out, and it's just like this crazy night. Let's go do something. Okay, and them doing something is the end of the world, but whatever, the Friday night in the valley.
It's very realistic to me that way because that's kind of how high school was for us.
Yeah,
there's
you kind
kinda
of
like
just get
one of
involved in
every
some bullshit.
Yeah, totally. But also in the social group was kind of like we had one of everyone, one of everything. So it's kind of like you said, inclusive in that way, in a real way.
Yeah, like they're the casting and it felt all organic,
Mhm.
and like some of the stuff that they do, like in retrospect, like I'm not sure that I would have like some of the things that the choices they make. I was kind of like, well, I kind of probably do that too. I don't think that I would, make any other decision that they made. Like it totally seems, even though it's about zombies and crazy shit like that, like totally I'm like, well, I kind of would do that too. And then
Yeah.
when the mortician is like, one to trap it and find out what's going on, it's like that's something that I would have done. And I don't know, I is it just me, or did anyone else feel sorry for that like disembodied torso talking about like the pain of being dead?
Oh,
And I'm like,
Oh,
which is
yeah.
very, very tragic. But and basically, she tells us that brains are painkillers, which is interesting. Like they're motivated. They're almost like they're going after opiates to
Oh,
dull the
weird.
pain. And I don't know I kept thinking about that, how like they were kind of like going after a brain fix.
He looked really stoked when they get brains. Like they start smiling, like brains, and they're just so happy they
Yeah.
got some fresh brains showing up.
I was reading about that they paid the extras more money to eat calves brains.
Yeah.
go on, like,
Of course, you get a raise.
Yeah, and the
Wow.
director actually ate it too to show that he wouldn't make them do anything they wouldn't do, that he wouldn't do. But I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna tap out on that. Like I don't
tap
eat
out. You're like,
fucking weird shit.
Don't want the raise.
I
Yeah.
could make
You're
a
like, no,
totally
I'm
realistic brain out of stuff that's not brain material.
she's like, I'm just a day player, I'm good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Did anybody get mad cow disease from the cast, or
Oof.
I don't think that was around then.
you have to get it? I mean, you eat cow prions and cow brain.
Ugh,
Yeah, the prions and all that stuff. I no,
gross.
I couldn't.
That-
I mean, I couldn't do it. I'm not a brains guy.
I'm not a big on eating organs in general.
But what if it killed the pain?
Oh
Well,
yeah,
I
I'd
mean,
be
well, that'd be
for it.
different. Like we'd be dead, and I'm not worried about calf or getting mad cow disease. Like if I'm rotting from the inside, it's like, oh well.
Ah, ah.
I don't know. I think this was the first movie that kind of, dare I say, humanized zombies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does. It does. And it like it could only have been made in the Reagan era. It's such a reaction. It's
Yeah.
also kind of like Doctor Strangelove in a lot of ways
Oh
too,
yeah.
because it's very aware of itself. It's playing with the conventions of the genre.
Well, yeah. Well, when he said, they are looking for, like they're consumers. I never really
Yeah.
thought of it as them being consumers or them being like in this very kind of like culturally like we have to consume, and it's like brains, and then making it that the brains are kind of like a soothing for what troubles you, and it's just like
Mhm.
this whole meta message about consumerism, and like I never noticed that. I never did. Like I was
Yeah.
just like, oh, this is kind of cool, and and I got the tropes and stuff like that. But the whole secondary message of it being about consumer, possibly being about consumerism, and if you finally get what you're overly like wanting and consuming, like you feel this sort of release, and it's just like it's
The
kind of
high,
cool.
the high of
Yeah,
consuming. Yeah, I mean, when you're a teenager watching this, you're more like into the soundtrack or into like Linnea Quigley without clothes on. But like, it's maybe the Marxist reading of this movie is more for when you rediscover it as an adult.
Did you guys ever hear about the study about how vampire movies come out when there's a Democratic president, and zombie movies come out when there's a Republican president?
Wow, does that track? Is that true?
Republican zombies are come in when people are worried about like how all Republicans kind of walk in lockstep, and then the vampire movies come in when people are afraid of socialism sucking you dry.
Ah! Wow.
That's really interesting. Yeah, that does seem like it tracks. I I took a class in Gothic literature at UC Santa Cruz. I went to Santa Cruz. That's a whole nother.
That's
Yeah,
another podcast.
yeah, yeah. It is good illegal substances, I guess. But
Mm,
part of what we read Dracula. The original Bram Stoker's Dracula, which is a very interesting book because, among other things, it's got a female hero, but you don't know that. And no, it's not obvious.
mm, mhm.
Mina. I guess with the way that the book was traditionally analyzed, is vampires are aristocrats from the past trying to take the vitality of the workers and the peasants,
Ooh.
Yeah.
and that's the only way they can perpetuate themselves. So you got Dracula, who's the Prince of Wallachia, and he's only been able to stay alive and vital by drinking the blood
Sucking.
of his people. Yep, and he wants to make it to London so he can get a fresher, more cosmopolitan flavor going.
Well, there's also the reading of it that it's like xenophobic, right? And that it's kind of like, oh, the people from the old world, meaning Eastern, coming into Western Europe.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I think these ideas. I mean, I think things like zombies and vampires. I think they're portable ideas.
Yeah.
They address different anxieties in different periods of time. There was a long time where they did sexy Dracula. Remember that? It was like back in the 60s, in the 70s. And Dracula was sexy. They had
Yeah.
this. I think they had George Hamilton playing Dracula.
Yes.
Yup.
Yeah.
So hot.
Yeah, and like Dracula ends up getting the girl. And you want him to get the girl because the hero who's going to stop the vampire is a loser. At least Dracula is classy enough to value the woman, and and she gets to be an immoral vampire with him, and so that was a thing too. So there's all these portable ways you can do the story or the idea.
Absolutely. Yeah. And And ultimately, like Bela Lugosi was supposed to be pretty sexy for the time. You know, that's a sexy That was like first sexy Dracula on screen.
Hubba hubba.
And
Yeah.
it connects back to, sexy Satan in Paradise Lost, where
Yeah.
the evil being is kind of seductive. It's not just this repulsive monster. There's a seduction there. You kind of are attracted to this character.
Yeah, you're attractive to the fear of like having sex with something with the devil. It's like, ooh, it's
Sex,
taboo.
death, yeah, all the good stuff.
It's all taboo. Ooh. Ah.
All these feelings come of the devil.
That's why we have like sexy Dracula and sexy zombie and
Yeah,
there's
no
never any
sexy
sexy
zombies.
zombies. Yeah,
Mhm.
zombies are never sexy.
No.
Zombies are always horrific. They're
no.
like,
Remember, no, they had that one movie, Warm Bodies, where they had sexy zombies, and that girl falls in love with the zombie, and it's true love that brings him back to life. It was really weird, and I was like, okay.
I guess Trash is sexy. I mean, she becomes a zombie and she's naked
Yeah.
most of the movie, actually.
Right?
Do you know
Yeah,
that her hoo-ha
naked.
was actually a prosthetic?
Oh yeah, she had a
No,
merkin on, right?
It's a little
her
glued
junk.
on. Yeah.
Yeah, she had a
because-
fake merkin. Yeah.
Okay, so I read into it because I was just like, wow, that pussy looks so
It's like
so
a Barbie.
plastique.
Yeah.
It's so plastique. And then so like I read up on it, and that she showed up on set with a full bush, and they were like, we can't show full bush on on TV. So they sent her off for a Brazilian, and then they came back and they were like, oh, we can see everything, the clit, the labia,
This
all
is
that.
worse. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like we can't do that either. So like we need to find something to glue on there.
Well, this is like so typical of like guy no women in charge, like because of course any woman would know if you're gonna shave my pubic hair off, you're gonna see a lot more than you bargained for.
Yeah, you're,
Well,
you're gonna see a quarter pounder in there. It's gonna be like a full-on burger with maybe a 6-ounce burger.
It's a
Yeah.
roast beef. Anyway, but if you'd have known anything, that when you die, your hair still grows, so it would have been a full-on bush, though.
It would
So
have grown back.
No, baby, but she's a freaky girl, so she's way ahead of the curve on the Brazil thing,
yeah, it's true.
Yeah, maybe she was
know.
lasered.
Not
Or she
yet.
was a zombie and like woke up immediately, had to like shave and then go out and eat people.
Well, she spent most of the, I think, the shoot sitting in mud naked.
Yes,
so I'm
naked,
sure she was
yeah.
super happy to
Yeah,
have like something glued on her junk anyway. It's just like fucking heat
Yeah.
seal that shit.
We need
yeah,
to like take a moment to just like appreciate Linnea Quigley for all she's done in this movie.
yes,
Naked.
felt
She
bad
must
for
have been
her.
freezing.
yeah. Like she
Yeah.
was constantly like everyone in the movie probably got some kind of mold, from sitting and being wet all the time. Number one.
She
And-
caught strep throat. She caught
See,
strep
did?
throat.
Ugh,
Wow.
poor
Okay.
poor woman. Ugh.
So let's just
Yeah.
like take a moment to appreciate how impossibly beautiful she is.
It's obvious why she's naked in every movie she does. Like, she's the woman that will be naked in all movies. What's the demon one that's so... Night of the Demons. She's in
Oh.
a movie called Night of the Demons.
Oh, never
And-
heard of that.
Oh, it's totally like
Yeah, it's
Speakeasily
bad.
fodder. It's fantastic. It's
It's
like,
fantastically bad.
perfect. She's also in Sorority Babes in the Slimeball Bolorama. guys remember that
Fantastic
one?
movie. Oh
Yeah.
my god.
But what's funny is she plays a character named Spider in that movie, and there's a spider in this movie.
Mm.
A little factoid for you that will get you nowhere.
Maybe it was a prequel.
Maybe punk rockers only have the same 5 names.
This is true. This is what that means.
Well,
Her
you
sister.
got the stereotypical 80s punk rocker in the movies.
Yeah.
And they're always going to have movies names like Slash and Spike and
Right.
Spider. And
Spider.
so they had great names in this one. I mean, you had Suicide, you had Trash. I forget the other guy's name, but there's another guy with a mohawk, and he's like
Scuzz or something like that. Isn't it
Scuzz or something, or
Yeah.
Skunk or Scuzz or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Scuzz?
I know. I thought Suicide was kind of cute. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I thought he was hot.
He was a little bit too aggressive for me, and I was like, okay, sir, you need to calm down. I get it, you're a punk, but you need to calm
Oh,
down.
he reminded me of punks you'd see in the slam pits at the Knights of Columbus.
Yes.
The real like he's kind of like a version of Henry Rollins. He's
Yeah.
just he's standing there and he's like, you think this is more than a lifestyle? He's got his like chain thing that goes from his lip to his ear, and
Yeah, literal bike chain. Yeah.
yeah, and he's like, you think it's just a lifestyle? This is more than a way of life. Nobody understands me, and then Trash is grabbing his leg and like, let's make love, show some respect for the day. But he's just like this wounded, crying guy.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Like totally oblivious to the naked girl like climbing all over him. Just what it reminds me of is that video that went viral a couple of years ago. It's like this punk show that somebody put on in a Denny's, and like
No.
Wow.
the kids all like, "What the fuck's up, Denny's?"
Love it.
He's just gonna be so punk no matter what the situation is. That it's. I mean, we knew guys like this growing up.
In your face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So concerned with how punk he's being. That he's not even
Get a
living.
skull tattoo on your eyeball or something.
Right.
I think that's actually a thing. I think people actually do that now.
Eyeball tattoos?
You're probably right.
That's a
Oh,
thing.
no,
No,
I
I've
think,
seen
yeah.
photos of it. I don't think it's a good idea, just for the
No.
kids out there.
It
No,
is
but,
not a good idea.
As a nurse, you have to come out against it.
Yeah, you're like,
Mm.
not a good look, sir.
I mean, I'm all for like people's right to own themselves, but you see these people get this weird surgery. There's this thing where like this guy got his face turned into a reptile kind of thing, and
Yes.
What?
I've seen
all
it.
this surgery and facial tattoos, and to like when he's done, his head is actually like a
Snake.
like the Greys or something, like the lizard aliens. David Icke is like always obsessed with that, and
It's true.
guy made his face that, and I guess there's a whole trend. And then I think he got like studs put under his skin, so he's got like prominent horns and stuff coming up, and
Ugh.
yeah, people who
Sort of
are
like an iguana.
yeah, and I think somebody like did turn themselves into Darth Maul. They just totally got the facial tattoos and the horns, but like a lot of work.
Yeah, the lizard guy also got his tongue bisected, so it's like, ugh. So I'm just like,
It's a commitment.
it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's very suicide. I see the point here. It's a confusing lineage because you've got, obviously Night of the Living Dead, Romero's movie, and then this is 30 years later, 20 years later, 20 years later.
Yeah.
And it's Return of the Living Dead, and then this one spawned 5 movies. Is that
Yeah,
right?
but all those movies were not even close to being like related in any way.
Except for the title.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although so Return of the Living Dead does set itself up for continuation.
Yeah, because they nuke it gets back into the sky, and there's like a cloud. Yeah.
And there's more dead people underground to be resurrected.
And that music. It's like a video game.
Let's talk about how this movie came to be. So basically, it was a breakaway from Romero and his script. And Romero and his original writing partner broke off from each other. And then this project was kind of landed in O'Bannon's lap. And then he was offered to direct it, but he wanted it to be funnier, so he rewrote the script to be a completely new script as a comedy, because this was going to be just another zombie movie. What's odd is at the same time he also, like the same year, he also wrote Life Force. Have you ever seen Life
Great
Force?
movie.
Oh yeah.
There's another movie where a woman is naked the entire movie.
I like both. And when I was 16 years old, I loved both those movies. For that reason.
That's kind of vampire-ish and also zombie-ish.
They're aliens in Life Force, right?
Yes, they were alien vampires.
And it takes place in London.
Yep.
It's interesting that woman. I mean, she's gorgeous and she's naked the entire fucking movie. As just aliens don't wear clothes, I guess. And
they don't. I mean, we assume they do, but
yeah. And I really enjoyed looking at her. I'll be honest. But then I read about that movie later. She's 18 there.
Oh wow.
Jesus.
Yeah,
She was 18 or the guy's 18?
she
was 18.
18.
She was 18. Well, it's England.
And
And the age of consent is younger there. It is, but
I mean, 18 is legal, I guess, to be naked on screen. I don't know. Whatever it was, it kind of it took some joy out of that movie. That's for sure.
it's really it's weird because in England, England they sent all the Puritans to New England,
Yeah.
but some of the Puritans stuck around, and the censorship laws in England they've always been weird. Like the pubic hair thing, you can't show that. But they don't have problems with breast, like the tabloid, the Sun, the third page 3 girls. They've always got a topless girl on page 3.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And nudity, it depends on the nudity. I mean, they'll have nudity on television.
Yeah, they'll show
nudity.
titties.
Yeah, and they'll show naked women. I don't think they'll show vaginal or bush or anything, but they tend to not get, okay, that's terrible, we can't show that publicly like they do in the United States. But then you can go get some really crazy hardcore porn in the United States that you can't get in England. It's really strange, the different censorship kind of attitudes.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever seen The Autopsy of Jane Doe? It's a current movie, and it's about this autopsy of this girl, and that's just kind of found in this house, and it's just so fucking weird. But she's just laying on a gurney naked the entire movie.
Wow.
I started watching it on an airplane, and I was like, well, no.
Yeah, there's like little kids looking over your shoulder.
Yeah, I was just like, there's a thing, like it's just like long scenes of this completely naked girl, bush,
Who's
dead.
everything, who's dead. Yeah.
Oh,
And I was just like, oh my God, that poor girl, because it's a real person, actress.
The whole story about the pre-Raphaelites, and Oscar Wilde wrote a portrait of Dorian Gray,
Yes.
Dorian Gray. That was actually condemnation of the pre-Raphaelites.
Yeah.
The pre-Raphaelites were real cads. I mean, I love pre-Raphaelite painting.
Yeah.
Not all of them, but a lot of them just, women were to be disposed of for the object of beauty, right? And I guess the girl who posed in The Drowning of Ophelia.
Yeah.
Died.
She died of pneumonia.
Yeah.
Because she had to be in this bathtub, the whole time for like 12 hours while who painted that? Was it Monet or Monet or
No. I think her name was Elizabeth Siddal, because I remember reading about her.
Yeah, that's her name. She's a model for a lot of the pre-Raphaelites, but I don't forget the name. I forget the name of the pre-Raphaelite who painted that painting. But it was kind of like Wilde's critique of guys doing that, but you want a brain cleanse on nudity because there's not enough parity in movies between male nudity and say female nudity. You can always watch Prospero's books. Everybody's nude in that movie. Including John Gielgud, so you got to get ready for that.
I don't think I'll ever be ready for that.
So it was Sir John Everett Malleus who did that painting of the death of Ophelia, and I've heard that he heated the tub that she was in with one candle, 11 hours a day, 6 days a week over a 5-month period.
Wasn't she involved with Millier?
As much as any woman who has no means of income, it's probably survival sex.
Right, and then he left her, like she was sick, and then he kind of took off, if I remember correctly.
It's like, all right, I'm done. Peace out.
Yeah, you're no fun anymore. I'm taking that. After he basically slow-mo killed her.
Ugh.
Slow-mo killed her. Yeah, gross.
Joe, did we get off the point you were trying to make? I'm so sorry.
Sorry.
I was just thinking, I think there's a point well taken. There should be some parody and nudity in films if you want to get exploitational. I mean, we should exploit everybody, I love those movies both those movies, because the women were hot and they were naked most of the movie, I was 16 at the time, and I knew what my priorities were.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I can look back.
Yep.
Yeah. I never got used
back.
to Dr. Manhattan's bouncing dong, though.
Yeah. Huh?
Didn't bounce that much. Just kind of hung there.
Yeah.
Or it was just kind of rolling around on his thighs as he walked. I was like, what the hell is going on?
Which I never really understand why Dr. Manhattan even had genitals, because I would think that he would be beyond the concept of like gender and sex and everything. But I guess he wasn't, because he did pleasure his girlfriend, but it was a different version of him, a different quantum version of him. So
Yeah, it's like a vestigial memory.
yeah,
Like,
it's
why
just
do
like,
ghosts have clothes on?
yeah,
Because no one wants to see ghost junk.
Yeah.
speak for yourself.
He's, Dr. Manhattan. It's like the one thing that he clings to being human. It's like being physically intimate,
Yeah,
and he was a straight guy before he got nuked, so that's what kind of grounds him a little bit.
that makes sense.
Yeah, but but it's, I think the whole idea there is that if God exists, God's a flake, because the way he looks at life, it's just, it doesn't get the human scale at all.
God's never understood what it's like. That's
Oh.
why man is constantly going through the Job treatment.
Much like zombies.
Yes, zombies in the Old Testament. That'll be our next topic. Well, real quick to just to go through like the mechanics of this movie, because I think it does work really well. That you start off in this warehouse, the Unita warehouse. You need it, we got it.
Love it.
And yeah, so you got Frank, who's the foreman, and he's got a new employee, Freddie, our hero for the first few minutes of the movie. And he's like, trying to like psych him out, kind of like show him stuff in the warehouse that that are kind of like, creepy. Like they've got all these skeletons, but the skeletons have good teeth on them. And Frank says to him like, "Oh, all skeletons come from India, from a skeleton farm," which is really horrifying if you think about it. Like,
But-
yeah, why did all the skeletons come from India back then? There's actually a story about that with like H.R. Geiger on Alien, and a script that Dan O'Bannon wrote. Dan just wrote everything. That he ordered all these skeletons, and they did come from India. And so, like on that set, they were talking about, like skeletons come from India, probably from like.
They do in the 80s.
Yeah.
And my brother-in-law was a doctor. He had a skeleton. It was from India. It's where all the medical skeletons in medical schools come from.
Yeah. So, is there skeleton farms? Was there skeleton?
I think there are. Yeah, I think there's so much poverty. I think India is doing better than it has, but there's so much poverty in India that families will sell family members to a skeleton farm.
Jesus.
But after they've died.
I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah.
Well, they die young with good teeth there, apparently.
Yeah, die young with good teeth. But do you remember when they had that body art exhibit over at the Mason Hall up on Nob Hill? I went to that. Because I looked at corpses. I've had to deal with corpses and stuff. And, not as a mortician, but just in nursing school. And they had stuff where like they had a human nervous system, but it was an actual nervous system, and they had the whole plastinate process where they destroy everything but this one particular system of tissue.
Yeah.
It was kind of interesting. People were like, oh yeah, this is remarkable, And then afterwards, I heard, that bodies were people who had been executed by the Chinese government.
Yeah, I've heard about that too.
Yeah, and it made me think, if I knew that, I wouldn't have gone to that. But
yeah, they sold a lot of people who were executed, and just didn't. If they couldn't find a way to bury them or anybody to claim the bodies, they would just sell them. Sell them or give them away to researchers.
Yeah, but you could get executed for tax evasion there.
Yep. So that's why I was kind of like, we have an abundance of bodies because you just don't, persecute
You don't
people.
value life.
Yeah.
Well, just think of a world where Trump would be afraid.
Oh Lord.
I wouldn't mind seeing Trump plasticined in a museum somewhere. Actually, I would.
He probably will be, because he will just be like, he needs the attention even after death.
I think there'll probably be a church of Trump, and like his followers will have him embalmed, and
Yeah.
like Lenin in Red Square or something like that.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, maybe Go on tour.
You know the story of Rasputin's penis, right?
Oh,
Gregory Rasputin.
hell yeah.
Yeah,
Wait, no, tell us.
Rasputin allegedly had this monstrous penis, and and he was killed over like 12 hours by the conspirators.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I
that
love
whole
that
story.
part.
But allegedly, one of them cut his penis off. That also didn't kill him.
Yeah.
After everything else, and one of the servants took the penis and then embalmed it, and then Rasputin's cult revered it as a religious icon.
Ha.
And this white Russian lady brought it to Paris in exile after the Russian Revolution, kept it as kind of like a religious shrine, like an Orthodox Christian religious shrine with Rasputin's cock and this like chalice on this altar. Writers have talk about it, and I've seen it. So allegedly, it actually exists, or maybe it's not Rasputin's, but there is this like revered phallus.
In a jar.
Inside of brandy or something. Yeah.
I think it's just real mummified, right? So it was embalmed perfectly, and it's kept in a clean room, or I don't know.
Oh, I thought it was in a jar. I thought it was in a jar of like embalming fluid.
That's the head of Joaquin Marietta.
We'll have to do some research on Rasputin's cock and where is it?
Reading something about a pickle jar.
Yeah, it's in a pickle jar. Hopefully no one gets confused.
It was last seen in Paris. I don't know where it is now. That was like in the 70s.
God.
These pickles are so crunchy.
Well, also pickled is our plot point in the basement here in this movie, where there's a guy in a canister of 2,4,5 trioxin.
The tar man.
So the tar man, yes, the tar man is in the canister in the basement, and when Frank goes to show Freddy, like, hey, look at this cool zombie in a canister, like he hits it and lets out all the infectious germs or the sulfuric smoke kind of unleashes the plot. They make a reference to Night of the Living Dead, so it's like it's so aware of itself. It's just like, hey guys, remember that movie? Well, here's what really happened. Here's the true story. And of course it's government cover-up.
Which I thought was a nice little homage.
Yeah, great homage, and also just like so 80s and self-aware of the Reagan era lying and deceit that was going on. Really, it's sort of like, a great time to not trust the government. And ultimately, yeah, like it comes around that they shouldn't trust the government because the government doesn't care about the people of this town at the end. They just nuke it. That's their answer to everything.
They nuke only 20 blocks. They're quick to the point. Only 20 blocks.
Yeah, and how many? Something like, oh, we only lost like 10,000 people. Yeah.
Oh yeah, what about radiation burns? Oh, it's going to rain. It'll be fine.
Yes, the rain.
They'll put the fire out.
Yeah, put the fire out. Pull people's skin down who got burned. Radiation burns.
We also, several episodes ago, we did Chud. And it had a very similar message. Like, you cannot trust the government, especially when it comes to environmental issues.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, and radiation.
Yeah, this is we could do a whole genre, the Chud and these zombies, and yeah, it would
It'll be the 80s Toxic Festival. 80s Toxic Film Festival.
Yeah, Toxic Avenger will be there.
Oh yeah. You could do werewolves too. There are some werewolf. The werewolf. I feel sorry for the werewolf because I think the werewolf is really kind of kicked to the curb by the vampires and the zombies.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
I agree. Yeah. But you remember Wolfen?
Oh yeah.
I think that's the one where the werewolves are killing yuppies in New York City.
Yep, and the cop is trying to find out what's going on, and he's like, I don't understand, But
I think a Mohawk Indian has to explain that they built these luxury high rises over Indian burial grounds.
Of course.
And that's why the werewolves are killing all the yuppies.
Yep.
And then there was the other werewolf thing where, like, it's kind of a critique on swingers. Like, people go out to get, hook up, and partner ends up becoming a werewolf or something, eating you. Or what was that one called? Was that
The Howling?
Howling? Yeah, yeah.
Howling was
Howling, yeah.
great. The
It's
first Howling was
really
great.
great, and it's also really awful. Like, it's
The
all these
second one
things
was
and
bad.
more.
The
Yeah,
second one was really bad.
not so good.
It's all that bait and switch thing, and I mean, I kind of find it more appealing than straight up porn. But there's all that bait and switch, which is like, there's some sex, but it will kill you, and it's bad, and that's the
It'll
whole
kill you.
that's the whole thing of the final girl thing, where the final girl is like the girl who's sort of gender neutral, sort of, and not sexual, and like the sexy people always get killed first, or the people having sex always get killed first.
Yes.
It is.
I think
sexy
it's
too.
biased.
Moralistic.
Yeah.
I know there was no sex in this movie, was there? I can't remember any. I think they were trying to have sex.
Trash tries to have sex with
Yeah.
suicide,
Yeah.
but
Tries and
suicide,
fails.
suicide's too self-involved. And
He's
too-
too
Yeah.
punk. He's too punk to fuck.
He's too punk. Yeah, I mean,
Just too punk to fuck.
punk to funk. Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry, just too punk to fuck.
Exactly. Too punk to fuck.
He's like, nope.
You know what I really loved in this was Freddy. Freddy has this jacket, like this really cool satin tour jacket, and it's embroidered on the back. It just says "fuck you."
Fantastic.
But like, apparently they also shot scenes where the back of his jacket said "television version."
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, they were very aware of like that they would probably be having to edit together a television version while they shot this, like with the pubic hair and the "fuck you" jacket. But you mentioned Tarman. We can't like not talk about Tarman and how amazing that actor is. There's an actor in there, and he's moving. He's like an amazing dancer, puppeteer kind of guy.
Where he's kind of shambling around and stuff was really cool. You can see a couple pictures of him in his Tarman, like shaking hands with O'Bannon, and they're like really kind of like, I don't know, he just seems like a cool guy.
I thought that was a puppet.
No, he's a real guy.
That's a real
He's just-
person inside of us. Wow, that was pretty
Mhm.
impressive.
Super
With the
skinny
mask?
dancer.
Yeah, and just the expression, it was mostly what got me in that movie. Was the practical effects. It was really what got me. Well, the naked guy, the bald naked guy running around was hilarious, and then the pickaxe in his head was hilarious.
The cadaver.
Yeah, the
yellow,
cadaver.
yellow cadaver.
Yeah, that was hilarious. And then Tarman, I don't know, there's just a lot of really cool scenes in that movie.
Yeah, very, and this is like a relatively low budget film for all that they did. It was like a $4 million budget, and obviously it was very successful box office.
Like hardly any sets at all. Like it was like really one or
Yeah.
two things, maybe three tops. The beginning when they're driving around the city.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's all shot just in LA.
Mhm.
Obviously the graveyard was like invented. They shot that in an olive grove, and they just sort of put up all these different tombstones and
They were
set
really
dressing.
packed together.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the more densely populated graveyards. So like, okay.
You guys are really on top of each other in here, aren't you?
And there's only one consistency error I was
What's-
able to spot.
Oh, what's that? What's that?
Well, suicide never becomes a zombie. You come down and he's still lying there dead after having Tarman eat his brains, and and the boss is like, Jesus Christ, and but Trash becomes a zombie. Anybody else gets bit becomes a zombie, but suicide never.
What
does.
about Scuzz? And Scuzz's head basically just turns into a fountain of blood. That's
Yeah,
how
his
he
carotid
goes.
artery gets ripped up.
Yeah.
I don't think. Yeah, he doesn't seem to turn it, but he's off screen. He might turn into a zombie. He's
Maybe
they
Go ahead.
barricade off the chapel.
yeah.
He's in the chapel, so you don't see what happens to him.
Ah, good point.
Or
Okay.
maybe it's one of those things where if your brain or something is or if you're killed by a zombie, you don't become a zombie, so you already have to be dead to get the
because
gas.
Because Trash becomes a zombie.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, yeah, you're right. Huh.
The rules
Yeah.
are a little unclear.
Yeah, they
We
are.
don't see it all. Oh.
Maybe if your brain gets thoroughly sucked out and eaten by zombies.
Well, and also there were the ones that had the fast moving versus the slow moving zombies, and the rationale for that was the sooner you die, the faster you will be, as your body has not decayed enough. So and that's why you have the fast moving zombies versus the slow moving zombies, because the slower ones were just more decayed.
We got some serious zombie theories here happening.
Well, there was there was a zombie theory that was written, and I'll have to send it to you guys. I thought it was amazing. This guy wrote out what would happen theoretically. I guess he did projections or whatever about what would happen in the zombie apocalypse, and he said actually the zombie apocalypse was likely would last for about just under a decade, because what would happen is there would be an explosion of insects, and insects would be the zombies' natural enemies, and so the insects would basically just eat all the zombies.
Is this
Because
like
they're all
Oh, nice.
yeah. So
That's quite true. Yeah.
yeah, the insects would come in, they would literally feast on all the zombies, and then the zombies, and then well that was thinking that us as humans would be able to take out the rest of the zombies and put in measures in order to protect us, and then just let the insects eat everything. And so so we would just have like massive amounts of like cockroaches and all this other bullshit to deal with, as the insects would just eat all the rotten flesh. And so the insects themselves would take care of the zombies. And then that, in a process of just natural decomposition of them decomposing, would also do it. So
This sounds like Max Brooks. Is this Max Brooks?
no, I'll have to look for it. It was just something I was reading, and he wrote this huge long dissertation about like and how in the summer months the zombies would decay even faster, and the insects would then probably lay maggots and shit inside of them, and then they'd probably eat them from the inside out. And then in frozen climates, they would literally just freeze to death, and you'd have like literal just like bodies frozen, and because there'd be nothing to they have no warmth or anything, so they would just freeze. And the same thing with zombies being in the water, they would just bloat and just kind of float there.
They'd be like bog people,
Yeah.
right?
So it was very interesting how the earth itself would deal with a zombie infestation. It was really interesting.
It's like scientifically accurate zombies.
Yeah, because that's the thing. It's like, because he was talking about how there are zombie insects already in like there are plants and mushrooms and fungus that do zombie like stuff to animals and stuff, and it's all in the case of trying to feed. And so so it would just be like, all these other animals and insects would just eat everything. Although it'd be kind of weird, because you wouldn't be able to what do you say, if the animals were to turn into zombies, the same thing would happen. They would just be eaten by the insects, because I don't think insects have the physiology to become zombies. So but then you have to worry about shit like mosquitoes and stuff like that if it was like blood to blood transmissible. That's why that shit wouldn't work 28 days later, because 28 days later is it's in the blood that does it. So the carrier would be mosquitoes, and that would make everyone else a one of those weird 28 days later zombies. So
well, that might not be the case, because mosquitoes can't transfer AIDS or hepatitis.
Exactly. So I think that would be a really interesting case to see if that virus would be able to transfer.
What about the Zika virus?
Yeah, well, there's certain viruses that mosquitoes carry, like
malaria,
West Nile virus, viral encephalitis, Zika. Yeah, but they don't carry. I don't think they carry shit like Ebola or, they don't carry AIDS or hepatitis C or. Fortunately,
thank God.
COVID.
Yeah. Welcome to the scientific portion of Speakeasily versus the 80s.
We have a nurse to help us understand what we don't, and
yes, around viral transmission of zombie viruses.
I got really into viruses. I mean, viruses are really interesting because they're almost like zombies because there's a whole epistemological debate, as to
Mhm.
whether the viruses are actually living things or they're just things, they're just inert dead things because they only act like they're alive when they're in a host, when they're parasiting off a host. And
Yep.
a virus
Yeah.
will hijack a host machinery to reproduce itself. It can't reproduce on its own without the host to parasite off of. And they're also necessary to the biomass. They're the biggest biomass on Earth, but they're critical for evolution because viruses are how genetic material gets transferred from one species to another. I read this one thing, like, one of the coolest viruses is bacteriophage for E. coli. Looks like a spaceship. It looks like a 1950s science fiction paperback cover spaceship.
Huh.
Awesome.
And if you took every one of the bacteriophages and you laid them head to tail, every one that's on Earth, it would be the radius of the galaxy. That's how many of them there are.
Holy.
Yep. And they're just chilling out on your face.
The bacteriophage are fine. I mean, most, something like 80 to 90% of viruses are fine for human beings. They don't affect human beings at all. There's only about 10 that are pathogenic for human beings. They're about 10%. I mean, it's a real small number, but the ones that are terrible.
They're like, fuck your shit up.
Yeah. There's viruses on Earth, the filoviruses. You're a human being, that is.
We should interview Klingon Vanna White's coronavirus right now.
Coronavirus. I was muted because I was like looking up Rasputin's penis.
Of course you were. Oh.
Well, maybe that's the cure for COVID.
It was not very hot looking, I gotta say.
Well, I would think. I mean, it's all like mummified and.
Man, that guy was supposed to be hung like a horse.
It might be
Well,
a
think
horse.
about it though. Back then, everyone was super short anyway. So
He was super tall. He was a tall guy. He was a big guy, and he never bathed. That's another.
Well, he didn't want to.
No, he did. I think he did, babe. What it was is he never used forks or knives when he ate.
Oh, I guess people hated him so much that they said a lot of things.
Yeah, and it's hard to figure out. I mean, I wrote a biography of Rasputin in one of my issues of Species, the sex and death issue. Yeah, and I found a lot of stuff that nobody had found before because a lot of stuff that got published from Russia that hadn't been in English before because of the collapse of the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
So this one writer, this Russian TV writer, found the Nureyev manuscript, which was the 500-page manuscript that was written of all the inquiries into Rasputin during the period between the February Revolution and the October Revolution. So they had pages and pages of testimonies, and they kind of like, they've been able to figure out what was myth and what was not myth in Rasputin's story. And I mean, doctors actually saw that he had healing powers. He could heal the Tsarevich, when he was bleeding. He actually was able to do it. And guys who hated him, doctors who thought, who is this con artist, is preying on the royal family? They're like, whoa, he actually was able to do it. We don't know how.
The power of the mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mesmerism.
And there's this one story, and the weirdest story about Rasputin is right around somebody attempted to assassinate Rasputin the same day that Archduke Franz Ferdinand was assassinated in the Balkans, in Sarajevo. Very same day, within the hour. And Rasputin was very much against Russia getting involved with war in the Balkans, right? And so this prostitute was hired by this right-wing priest who hated Rasputin. And she was disfigured from syphilis. She attacked Rasputin in his village and slashed his stomach open, cut him open, and sliced his intestine.
Oh my
and
God.
this is a fatal thing. And most human beings, if that happened, especially then, would have died. But this is Rasputin's village, so the entire village showed up, and he's their hero, right? And they just beat the hell out of her.
Oh my God.
They throw him in the back of a carriage, right, with his guts coming out. And they have to go 50 miles to the nearest hospital with Rasputin in the back of this, this wagon drawn by horses. I mean, she gutted him.
Wow.
Will of the mind. He said, I'm Rasputin. I ain't going nowhere.
No, there's probably a lot to that.
There's so much you have to slice through to get somebody's through. There's muscle and fat and skin. Good God, it's nasty.
So he was walking around with that for until all the rest of the assassination attempts.
Yeah, he had that. There is a theory of people that's like Rasputin. He's got a camp that he tried to stop World War One. So the people who wanted World War One put the hit on him, and he made it back to St. Petersburg, but he 6 months later. But at which point he started drinking too. He didn't drink at all for a long time. That was like this thing he did. But after that incident, he started drinking a lot. His behavior got crazier and crazier. Then when the Tsar was at the front, Empress basically made him emperor. Like she said, okay, who should I point to the ministry? And he's like, oh, this is a good man. Point him. No idea. It's an insane story. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the whole biography of Rasputin. I mean, you right at the World War One and the Russian Revolution, and it's a crazy story. And this huge cock that got preserved.
Yeah.
Is there any retelling of Rasputin as a zombie?
Maybe he was a zombie the whole time.
Because it sounds
Maybe.
like it.
I mean,
I
if
mean,
they could do
shit.
it to Abe Lincoln.
Yes, right. What do you think of how the zombies look in Return of the Living Dead? Like
They were really scary looking.
they are scary. They're like
Yeah.
very EC Comics.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. AC Comics. It's very
Yeah.
much like Tales from the Crypt kind of aesthetic.
Well,
Well,
they're all over the place though too. There's the yellow guy at the lab, and then there's the guy that attacks calls in for more paramedics that has white face on.
Yeah, the old guy.
Looks like a clown.
Said more
And then-
cops.
Yeah, and then there's the tar guy. So there's so much variance in like the zombie types.
And
That-
then
yeah.
and the one who had like supposedly no legs, but he was just a little guy. That was
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
the littlest zombie.
yeah. He was for reals a legless guy.
Wow.
He was like, I just gotta show off more. I gotta work harder. I ain't got no legs.
Right. He walked on his knees.
And then there was the lady puppet on the gurney. Or was that just a woman like whose head was sticking out that had a bunch of makeup on?
That was a puppet.
It was a full puppet.
It was an
Okay.
animatronic.
But
You
so
can
yeah.
see pictures of it. It's like if you look at the pictures from the movie of the outtakes and stuff, it's really funny because like I think this is one guy who's like making out with her and stuff.
Oh God.
Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah,
funny.
Well, I mean, she's probably just like what, latex or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's like leaning down, sticking his tongue in her mouth, and you're like, what? It's like, ew.
I mean, to me, she's the most horrifying. Because like,
Why?
Yeah,
'Cause
because
she-
she's sentient and she's like laying there talking.
yes.
Well,
Right.
she basically says they're all sentient. All the zombies are sentient. She ends up being a spokesperson for the zombie position.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Zombie
That's correct.
rights.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But the other zombies, but I mean, the one scene like I mentioned, like where all the cops pull up, and there's a guy wearing the paramedic outfit and a policeman's hat, and he's a zombie. He's like directing with a flashlight.
Yeah.
Yeah, right here, and they stop, and then the zombies in a coordinated attack launch at all the police cars and the brains of all the cops. Like, okay, let's do it this way. Yeah, okay, like it can delay gratification, it can strategize. And the zombies are smart. This is the only movie I know about where the zombies are smart.
Meals on wheels.
Meals on wheels. Yep.
Send more paramedics.
Call them in.
Yeah.
We need
Send.
we need that pizza.
Oh, the production designer for this movie is incredible. William Stout. And he designed basically what all the zombies would look like and also what that graveyard would look like, but yeah, he was very influenced by comics. And
Of course he was.
yeah, but also like just decaying bodies. Like he did research with the LA police. Like he went and viewed corpses.
Ew.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I would do all that.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of artists do that. I mean, it's kind of like the thing you do if you're an artist. I have friends that do that. You go sketch corpses, part of it. Especially if you do figurative art, you understand everything you can about the human body and also how it decays, and
I don't know. I just always just sketched and model in class. It's like, I don't know, but I've never became like a serious artist. I just went to a serious art school.
I just always drew Odessa while she was sleeping. That's what I did.
Yeah.
Well, you could learn a lot about gross anatomy by watching me.
Yeah, like Da Vinci, I'm sure did all that too, though, like sketching bodies and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, you know what they used to do in the Renaissance? They rediscovered like science, and they were into, because like before the Renaissance, the church said you can't do anything to a dead body. That's the temple of God. The human beings made in God's image, and therefore you can't cut into a human being or do anything to a human being. So in the Middle Ages there was no medical science like there was kind of under Greece and Rome. Then the Renaissance, there was a whole, they said, oh, we can do this. There's dispensations for doing this, and so they started dissecting bodies again as part of the scientific process, But they'd also taste the different humors of the body.
Ugh.
Yeah, I'm good.
I'll say no.
You don't want any bile? You got to try this bile.
It's so good.
Yeah.
So good.
And that's how the entire medical school got hepatitis.
No, I'm just thinking like who's the lab tech, that drew the short straw for that one. Okay, Thomas, it's time for you to taste this can of bile we pulled out of corpse number 34.
The idea is use all 5 senses to investigate the natural world.
I mean, I get that, but I
wouldn't do that. I'm not down with the cannibal thing.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, not now anyway. Like if we had to get there. You're just tasting.
They're not eating, they're tasting. It's like when you go wine tasting and you spit it out.
Wine tasting.
So
like you're not cannibal.
Detective movies where they're like, is this blood?
Yeah, totally.
They taste it. It's like, what are you doing?
Is this cocaine? Yeah.
Let me taste some.
Oh, I would be there for that.
Because everyone knows what cocaine tastes like.
Right. Or heroin or cocaine.
Like, whenever cops did that in movies, I'm just like, I totally forgot that in Police Academy, you had to do an ounce of coke to know what it was in case you found it in the wild.
This movie has opened up so many doors to us.
A lot about Rasputin, actually.
A lot about Rasputin's cock, humor tasting. I mean,
the sadness of being dead. I mean, come on.
Aw, but it hurts to be dead.
I mean, you'd think it would.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems
it hurts
to really
live sometimes.
God, it sure fucking does hurt to live. But the discovery of that it hurts even when you're dead seems to really bother Ernie. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
And who is probably a renegade runaway Nazi that they keep hinting at during the movie.
Was it the photo of Eva Braun over that?
Yeah, it might have been that.
Like that was a weird kind of character moment about him. I was like, and I guess maybe because he was the one that was so into let's talk to them. Let's and I'm thinking, are you were you a Nazi doctor
scientist
or something? Scientist and you want to know what's going on with dead people?
he's like Mangala Light or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
With this Walter PK 38?
Yes.
Yeah, well, he's got a Walter, yeah. He's actually, there's all sorts of red herrings with Ernie.
Yes, there is.
There's because he actually has compassion, when Bert shows up with the, we got these rabid weasels, and I just want to, we can just want to borrow a crematorium, and then Ernie's like, wait a minute, that would be cruel. No, you can't do that. You're not, okay, so just call anyone. No, we got to do it this way, Ernie. Trust me, you got to do it. And he's like, well, at least let me take them outside and shoot them and put them out of their misery. No, that won't work. And, so he actually has some empathy,
Weasels.
Weasels.
Empathy for weasels.
Weasels.
I love that it's Bert and Ernie.
Yeah, that was cute.
Yeah. Ernie's character is a real as a character is a real head scratcher to me, because obviously they keep insinuating that he is a Nazi. He speaks German at one point. He runs the crematorium.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah, he couldn't afford the ticket to Brazil.
Apparently not.
So he got stuck in America. God damn it.
And what, like, if you were gonna cosplay anyone in this movie, I think it has to be Ernie, because like he's got that tracksuit on, and then he very deliberately cuts the one leg off.
The pants, the tracksuit, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that scene where he cut, like you have to sit there and be patient and watch him cut the leg off of his burgundy tracksuit.
It's practical. It's very practical. It's going to flap around, and if he
Yeah,
has to run somewhere, that could be a liability.
how German.
He's ran before.
He's the most level-headed character in the whole movie too.
The Nazi is the smart one. If the Nazi is the level-headed one, what kind of world do we live in?
Anybody ever been to the Museum of Mummies in Guanajuato, Mexico?
Nope.
No.
No, but apparently that was some inspiration for William Stout designing these zombies in this movie.
Yeah, I went to there. I went in
Wow.
Guanajuato, El Museo de los Momias, and yeah, there's like hundreds of corpses, including dead babies, in
Yeah,
Ugh.
yeah.
like clothes, and what it is, and weirdly enough, people's clothes rot off, but not their socks for some reason. I don't
Wait,
understand
what?
Yeah, I don't know what that was about.
Their socks just stay. Huh.
Yeah, I guess maybe there's like polymer chemicals in the socks or something, but the deal is that like in Mexico, at least in the time period, you have to pay rent on your grave, or your family has to pay rent on your grave. So
Oh, that's right.
So if the family can't afford to pay the rent on the grave, they just dig you up and they burn you. But in this part of
Wow. Oh my gosh.
God.
but in this part of
That's-
Mexico,
Yikes.
Uh-huh.
there's volcanic soil that has a preservative quality. So they would dig up the bodies and they put them in these glass cases in the Museum of Mummies. And Guanajuato is a really interesting city because it's like a Giger painting, or not a Giger painting. It's like an Escher painting. There's all these like real medieval looking, and it's a very old Spanish city. It's like one of the first. It's very Spanish. There's not a
Yeah.
lot of indigenous culture there. It's very Spanish. They're in Don Quixote, but there's all this death fetishism, and so you go through the Museum of the Mummies, and it's just like hundreds and hundreds of corpses. And after a while, it's kind of a bummer trip. You go in there, oh, this will be fun, man, and morbid, and afterwards you're kind of like, man, this is kind of
Depressing.
disturbing.
Yeah.
And then you get out, and they have all this real tacky, like tchotchke stuff you can buy at the gift shop.
Oh God,
Like,
that's the
there's-
worst.
And there's like keychains with like a mummy in a coffin, and and there's a little slogan in Spanish about like one says Muriel Pork Chingon, died from fucking. Then there's another one that says Muriel Pork shitting in the street, died from shitting in his. Yeah, and very tacky, but interesting.
I'd buy that and give it to Odessa.
Thank you. Well, my birthday is coming up.
Yep.
Yeah. So what time period are these mummies from?
I couldn't tell. I think it may have been 100-year period. Going from the early part of the Republic to like maybe the Mexican Revolution or thereafter sometime. I think in Mexico, a lot of the laws differ from state to state. There's not like national laws or federal laws. There are, but there's a lot of, I don't know. But what it was, somebody saw a commercial opportunity. So they took it to the bank.
Yeah, apparently.
I mean, they're in Mexico, they're a lot more comfortable with death than they are in the United States. I mean, you walk around, there's coffin makers, right? And they're just out in your front yard or in front of their store cutting coffins. And hey, you interested in a coffin? No, I'm good, thanks.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Just traveling through, passing through.
Yeah.
It's like Day of the Dead too. The whole families go out to the cemetery and have a picnic and stuff. And You know, it's not. I guess death is not as morbid in Latin America as it is in Anglophone America.
Well, Joe, thank you. This has been like such an interesting guided tour through death and penises, and I just this was really fun. Thank you so much.
Definitely
for
penises.
Penises, lots of penises.
You didn't ask me the theme for the next issue.
Can I ask you the theme for the next issue of Specious Species?
Failed revolutions.
Ooh, God.
Failed
Eesh.
revelation. Any teasers for us? Any interviews you want to leak?
Yeah, well, Eric Davis,
Yay!
Joe Clifford, who wrote the book Junkie Love. He was a street junkie or near a street junkie, and he ended up reforming, and now he's a hard-boiled crime writer.
Nice.
Very successful. Well, so I've got a Val Ginty, and she's like she's a Haitian turntablist, Brooklyn.
Hmm.
And I think her grandmother or her aunt is actually a mambo and voodoo, which is how you're supposed to pronounce it.
Okay.
How do you say it?
You're supposed to vibrate your lips. You're supposed to say it voodoo.
Voodoo.
You have to buzz your lips.
I can't do it.
It's not a French word. It's a Yoruba word, you know, and it's like voodoo. And then she made me go through it a few times. It's like, no, Joe, that is not how you pronounce it. I'm a Haitian. We come up rough. You pronounce it this way. She's you know, kind of guided me with the problem, but us pronouncing it correctly. But yeah, so she's in there. I got a piece on the Paris Commune, a big research piece on the Paris Commune, because I walked all over London and over Paris, you know, and I ended up kind of writing historical, you know, narratives about the Anglo Civil War and this other thing that happened. So that's in there. So we got a few things in there.
Well, this is exciting. Can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
Any estimated time of arrival on that one?
It's my designer. I mean, it's like, you know,
Okay.
I'm having to hassle him. I'm having to hassle him every week, you know, and he's really solid. I mean, he did the last issue. One of my designers, unfortunately, drank himself to death. So,
shit.
All right.
That's a hard way to go, too.
yeah, I had to go visit him in the hospital after they unplugged him, you know.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it was just, you know, it's one of those things that didn't have to happen. But my current designer is great, but he's, you know, just really procrastinating. But hopefully before the year is over.
I look forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Everyone, check out speciousspecies.net to find out more about.
How do you spell speeches?
Check out
Species.
speciousspecies.net. SPECIOUSSPECIES.net. Right?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Okay. Everybody, remember, stay safe, eat brains, get your vaccination.
Vaccine.
Please
For
get your
fuck's
vaccine.
sake.
You're pissing off Klingon Vanna White. You gave her COVID.
Fucking assholes. You
Yeah.
fucking assholes.
He's coming for your brains. Just do it.
Right. Right.
Get your shots, okay?
Yeah.
I appreciate the invite. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
You've certainly been an audience.
Good night. Sorry, that's you.
Good night.
Sorry.
Oh, he scooped me.
Do it again.
No.